Hello everyone and welcome back to the EDH Jank Center, your source for everything Commander and everything Jank. I am your host Jordan or Prairies, and today we got another list. Oh, let's go. Today we've got a list of 10 super slept on cards, all under 10 cents. Oh, we're going to be bringing you some dope and janky upgrades for your decks on a super tight budget. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. I'm super excited, guys. Our first ultra budget card today is Infested Roothold, 4 and a green creature wall from Darksteel. Walls can't attack. Protection from artifacts. Whenever an opponent plays an artifact spell, you may put a 1/1 green insect creature token into play. Man, I just love finding cards like these. There's no greater feeling to me in Magic the Gathering than finding a card that's super cheap that does really cool stuff that I've never heard of before. The protection from artifacts is pretty cool. If someone's playing an artifact creature heavy deck and they try to swing out at you, you can block their most powerful thing like a Darksteel Juggernaut or something. It won't get dealt damage from that Darksteel Juggernaut because it has protection from artifacts. Can't be dealt damage by artifacts. However, I love it for that last ability. Whenever an opponent plays an artifact spell, you may put a 1/1 green insect creature token into play. And with the massive amounts of artifacts that are played in our format, whether that be mana rocks, equipment, general value pieces, I mean, the list goes on, you're going to be generating lots and lots of 1/1 tokens, and there's plenty of ways to capitalize on those. And keep in mind that this says whenever an opponent, which means it triggers for each one of your opponents. That means if each one of your opponents makes a soul ring, you get a 1/1 insect creature token. You can pair this with Sylvan Anthem to scry a bunch of times. You can cast an Overwhelm and just stomp out your opponents. This card is great. Put it in your decks. It's 10 cents. Next up on our dope card list is Join Shields, 3 green and white instant from Guilds of Ravnica. Untap all creatures you control. They gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. We have right here in front of us the jankiest version I could find of Heroic Intervention. If you know of an even jankier version, make sure you drop it in the comments. I want to know. I don't even know if this card qualifies as jank. I think it's just really good. Now, I know it's 5 mana and I know it's multicolored, so it does limit the amount of decks that it can be in. However, I think for casual Magic, most kitchen table Magic players won't mind having 5 mana up to cast this and protect their board. So I'd say if you're running green and white in any way and you're a casual kitchen table Magic player, get this card. Buy a playset. It's 7 cents. If you buy 4, it'll be 28 cents. Literally, you probably pay more in shipping than you would for the actual cards. I think this is a great deal. You guys should check it out, and this art is slapping. Where are my other Selesnya mages at? Sound off in the comments, baby. All right, coming up next, we got Turn the Earth, 1 green mana instant from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Choose up to 3 target cards in graveyards. The owners of those cards shuffle them into their libraries. You gain 2 life, and it has flashback. You can pay 1 and a green, and you may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. So I think a lot of people, myself included, looked at this card and thought, okay, yeah, I can take 3 cards from my graveyard and I can shuffle them into my library and hopefully draw into them later and, you know, yada, yada, yada. However, I would like to point out a much spicier play. I was recently playing a game of one-on-one Commander with my girlfriend, and she was about to recur something that was very powerful from her graveyard, and I started reading the card and I thought, wait, this is in graveyards and they have to shuffle it into their libraries, so I just targeted the card that she wanted to recur with Turn the Earth, and she had to shuffle it back into her graveyard and she couldn't recur it, and she was really upset, and it was fantastic. So for 9 cents, I think you get a lot of utility with this card. It's 1 mana, it's an instant speed, so you can do it at any time, and it can be a value piece for you, shuffling cards you need back into your library, or it can be graveyard hate for your opponents, like the example I just gave with me and my girlfriend. You can use it to gain 2 life if you need the 2 life. It's just an all-around great card, and you can cast it for flashback. Come on, dude. But enough about Turn the Earth. Let's turn the page to Suspicious Bookcase, 2 colorless artifact creature wall from Jumpstart. This is the version that is under 10 cents. It has Defender. You can pay 3 and tap it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn, and it's a 0/4. Did you ever want your Uriel the Miststalker to walk through a bookcase in order to deal damage to your opponents? Well, now you can for 7 cents. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a bookcase that you can walk through. Well, it's flavorful. What do you want from me? You pay the 3, you let Uriel walk through the bookcase and smash your opponents in the face, and he'll thank you. Suspicious Bookcase is a welcome addition to any suite of cards that wants to make creatures unblockable, like Rogue's Passage and the like. Speaking of like, I really like this card. Coming up next is You Are Already Dead, 1 black mana instant from Neon Dynasty Kamigawa. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, draw a card. Dude, let's go. This card absolutely slaps. Let's say you send a creature at one of your opponent's creatures. They block with their seemingly safe creature. The damage gets retained on a creature until the end of the turn. So if a 5/5 blocks a 1/1, it is technically a 5/4 until the end of the turn. That's when you pay the 1 mana, you cast You Are Already Dead and destroy target creature that was already dealt damage this turn, and you can draw a card and You Are Already Dead replaces itself essentially. So good. You don't even have to be the person attacking or blocking. If you spot a problem creature that just got out of combat or was just pinged for 1 damage or whatever, you can pay 1 black, cast this, and get rid of it and draw a card. I mean, this card is amazing. Coming up next, I believe we have our cheapest card of the day. It's Bleed Dry. 2 black instant from Innistrad Crimson Vow. Target creature gets -13/-13 until end of turn. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Oh my god. Like I said before with our first card of the day, I think a lot of more competitive minded players or higher powered players would ignore this card because it's a bit overcosted. However, for casual Magic, I cannot tell you how many times this has saved my butt in a game. So first of all, this is 1 cent. This is literally a 1 cent card. So any player who's brewing on an ultra tight budget who's running black should absolutely put this in their decks. So fun fact about minusing the power and toughness instead of something that says destroy is this skirts around indestructible. So say goodbye to your friend's Heliod. We are about to bleed it dry. Also, not to mention that last line of text in the card says that if the creature would die this turn, it gets exiled, which prevents anyone from doing any sort of graveyard shenanigans and recursion. This card is so solid. I've made my case. Let's move on. Watch out, folks. This card coming up next is double the price of our last card. It's Thwart the Enemy. 2 and a green instant from Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control. So this is sort of a one-sided fog effect. So the way I'm thinking of using this is I swing out with my creatures, but I don't want them to die from your blocks. So I cast this in response to your blocks, prevent all the damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures you control. And that way my creatures make it out safe and your creatures do not. And on top of that, you can always use it for what the classic fog effect is used for, which is someone swings out at you. You don't want to take all that damage. So you cast this, you prevent all of it, and hopefully get another turn or 2 to survive and win. All right, moving on to Security Bypass. 1 and a blue enchantment aura from Streets of New Capenna. Enchant creature. As long as the enchanted creature is attacking alone, it can't be blocked. Enchanted creature has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives, which means its controller draws a card, then discards a card. If they discarded a non-land, they put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. So I love the new connive ability from Streets of New Capenna. It allows you to loot for cards that you need, get rid of cards that you don't need, and buff up a creature in the meantime. And Security Bypass gives us evasion on top of that on a creature as long as it's attacking alone. Let's say you put this on, I don't know, a Cephalid Constable. All of a sudden, this is an unblockable bounce creature, and it's just really amazing. Cephalid Constable says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, return up to that many target permanents that player controls to their owner's hands. So as we connive and put +1/+1 counters on Cephalid Constable, we'll be able to bounce more and more permanents each time it deals combat damage, all while drawing cards and discarding cards, etc., etc. And you can do this with many different cards that trigger upon dealing combat damage. So I think Security Bypass is a welcome addition to any deck that runs blue that wants to be doing combat type stuff. All right, coming up next is Fake Your Own Death. 1 and a black instant from Streets of New Capenna. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you create a treasure token. So listen, in a game of Commander, you're going to want to have commanders that do some cool stuff. People are not going to want you to do that cool stuff, so they're going to try and kill your commander. You can have your commander fake their own death, and when they die, they return right back to the battlefield. This works even better with a commander, let's say like Cardor Doomscourge. I have a deck tech right here you can watch about blinking him. He'll return right back to the battlefield, and his static ability will trigger, and it'll goad the entire board until your next turn. And on top of being a great way to save your commander from removal, this card also, in effect, replaces itself kind of, or at least reduces its own cost by giving you a treasure token, and that can synergize if you're running a lot of treasure synergies, which a lot of people are these days. All right, and just like that, we are at our last card of the day already. My gosh. But before we get into that, if you guys like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what cards you'd like to see me review next, or what entire list you'd like to see next. I'm always down there in the comments reading and interacting with you guys, so come on down and geek out with me. And without further ado, our last card of the day is Undercity Uprising. 2 black-green sorcery from Guilds of Ravnica. Creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. Then target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So that last ability can definitely get rid of a creature for you, but the first ability is what I want to talk about today. I view this card as another thing you can add in a suite with Overwhelming Stampede, Overrun, etc, etc. You give your army of tokens all death touch and you swing out. Either your opponents take a lot of damage or they lose all their creatures that block, which puts them in between a rock and a very, very hard place. And for 3 cents, I think that's quite worth it. And just like that, guys, we're at the very end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you really dig the content, make sure you check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. I have lots of cool benefits for patrons, including a patron-only Discord. So go check that out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.